My name is Rawhiti. I was born in Whangaruru, but lived my life between Whangaruru, Whangarei and Auckland. Oh, look, I have a 1,000-year plan. And the plan included that the life in the sea came back and there was a vibration in the sea with all the life. And I had a plan where our reo was spoken fluently between English and Maori in our country, and that people sought Maori students from around the world because they had this connection to the land. They knew who they were and they knew where they wanted to go, you know? And in this plan was that you could stay here in Whangaruru and Rawhiti and live and make an income if you wish to do. I do a lot of cross-cultural education programs, and I joined a international program where we helped Indigenous youth from around the world. My elders asked me to bring the program back to Whangaruru, so I brought it back to Whangaruru, and hence I set up a youth program there for our own people, and it evolved into a private training establishment in outdoor education, sports, fitness and community rec. And being involved with that PTE, running those kind of courses, I got invited to go overseas, and where I worked with young people from Indigenous groups, and all of that kind of helped me to, grow as a person, not only spiritually, mentally, but even physically. But I've always wanted to uplift ourselves as Māori. My tribe over the hill here is Ngāti, the water people, and there's these people on the water just making money with all the tourist dollars. So I said to Bob and Luz, if we don't do something now, it's gonna make it so much harder for our children and our grandchildren to get out into the water. And so we looked around on what we could get, kind of newish onto the water. Boats were so expensive, and then we saw some jet skis, that they were affordable, they were brand new, and so we bought 4 jet skis and put them on the water, and they're easy to maintain, that kind of stuff. And my outdoor education experience and knowledge and skill kind of helped me, how to buy and how to set up all the system, all the support gear, safety gear and such. And no sooner we had this on the water, we found another boat, and passenger boat, and it could take 24 people. They had a 100-meter camera underneath, and said, oh, that'd be great for educations, So we bought that, and that had a few problems, and so we fixed that up. And then soon after that, Dusty, the Bay of Islands water taxi, he said, oh, Howard and Bob, you got to buy my business. I've been looking for a buyer for so long, but they don't have the experience and knowledge to drop people off at the Cape Brett, or to drop them off at rock fishing, to the islands where there's no jetties. We ended up with jet skis. Now we got a passenger boat, and now we got the Bay of Island water taxi that's been operating for 14 years. So we're out there doing it, and this year, every week we're banking tourist dollars into our bank account. And that's a kind of a huge achievement for Māori here in Rawhiti, or even around this area. So yeah, there's a kind of a future for our children and our grandchildren, for the effort and the challenge and the risk that Bob and Louise and I took to make this happen. I had a goal that I wanted to work for the government. I wanted to travel the world, and I wanted to own my own piece of land. And that was my goal, and all before I was 30. I got a job with social welfare, running an outdoor program for schools, at-risk youth at schools. And then I set up Howard's Hot Dogs, and made as much money as I was getting in the social welfare for 3 days or 3 nights a week, you know. And then I sold the hot dog stand and resigned from my job and traveled around the world, you know, and went to many countries. And while I was over in London, I remember getting there with 50 pounds and a one-way ticket, and they gave me a working visa, and I got a job in an outdoor education program in the East End, Chadwell Basin, and went for the interview, and the guy said, "Are you from New Zealand?" And I said, "Yep." He said, "You know how to do windsurfing?" And I went, "Yep." I didn't know how to windsurfing, you know, didn't know anything about windsurfing. He said, "You're on at 1 o'clock, you know, £6 an hour." Wow, because that's what teachers get over there at that time. And anyway, so I'm teaching windsurfing at 1 o'clock, and I watched it from the time I interviewed until I had to start at 1, and I just repeated what the guy did and da-da-da-da. And then the boss came out, he said, "You don't know how to windsurf, do you, Howard?" I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "Well, stay afterwards and I'll teach you how to windsurf." And then he asked me, "Do you have a place to stay?" I said, No, I don't." And he said, "Well, look, the manager's got a room. I'm sure she'll let you stay there." And he said, "By the way, there's a 10-speed bicycle outside my place. You can use that to ride around on." And so there I was, you know, with, well, 40 pounds, one-way ticket. And next minute I got £6 an hour. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, I was given a job to work permanently at £9 an hour for Inner London Education Authority. And I got to teach people windsurfing, sailing, kayaking, abseiling, and all that kind of stuff. So I increased my skills, got my tickets, came back to New Zealand for my sister's death, and which I wouldn't have come back if she wasn't dying. I would have stayed on Europe some more. And anyway, buried my sister, and I came up north, and there was a program, a pilot program being established by Presbyterian Support Services in Whangaruru, working with young people in the outdoors. And I just went here, I said, "Hey, if this is a pilot program you're going to establish working with young people in the outdoors, I'm working here." And so I got a job there and ran that program, running trips through the bush for 10 days, and that's how I got involved in outdoors. And then I was doing these trips, and my elders said, "Howard, you got to go back home. We need those courses back home." Came back to Whangaruru, set them up here, moved into a PTE, and hence that's where I am. I've had to deal with the Māori and the Pākehā thing, and the one way I dealt with the Māori and Pākehā, I read everything I could read about Māori and the Pākehā and the whole, you know, coming together of those two things. And I know all the hurts and I know all the pains of everything that's going to happen. You know, you could stay in the pain, you can stay hurt, and you don't see the sunrise or the sunset. So I've had to put it aside, heal myself, and move on. Otherwise, my life would be worthless on this planet. If you ask people, what is it to be Māori, you know, whether it was yesterday, today, or tomorrow, you know, a lot of people think maybe it's going to a hui or tangi or something like that. There's more to be Māori, just going to the tangi or learning the reo or something like that, you know. Being Māori is to be, you know, to care for your family. Not just your immediate family, but your wider relationships. You know, there's not enough caring for one's family today. Being Māori is looking after the land, you know, because that's what defines us, you know, this land. And, you know, how do you look after your land? You know, are you really being Māori and looking after your land? I tell people no, you know. My mother was the first white woman in Whangaruru. She met my grandfather. He has just come back from the war, and they married as a war bride and brought her back to Whangaruru, and she had a really hard time being brought up with Māori, being a white woman. The other women were jealous. You know, the men were always looking at her, da-da-da-da. She was different, you know. And she struggled, and she struggled living in a Māori community, and she ended up in Kingseat in a mental breakdown and buried at Waikamete Cemetery. You know, a tough life for her, you know. My grandmother came from the River Tay. So I went over to the River Tay, and there was a little bit of grass, and I pitched my tent up there. And people asked me, what am I doing here? I said, oh, I come from here. You know, they look at you, and I say, yeah, my grandmother, this is where my grandmother comes from. I went over there to learn my genealogy on my grandmother's side. I brought my tartan back from Scotland, because, you know, I'm proud of all of me, you know what I mean? And I want to know all of me. So, yep, we all mixed blood, and yeah, proud of it, really. Proud of it.